How about an easy laser project? You're just getting started out. This is very easy to do, very easy to set up. And it's actually 2-layer. And in this case, it's a school insignia, and this is a small one here. This just got a little test. It's done in 2 layers. You paint one school color on this surface, you paint the other school color on this surface. Then when you put them together, the name of the school here will show through with the other school color. And I'll show you here when this gets done big. I got one cutting right now. I need to make a few for somebody. We'll go into all of this in detail coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and we're going to call this beginner laser project number 23. And this one is really, really easy. It's to make a school logo, a school insignia, and I'm making these for someone that is actually putting them on homecoming wreaths. I don't know why that's so hard to say. So as I said in the beginning here, this was just a little test cut to kind of see how they'd look. And the full-size ones are 12 inches high. And I have one of them cutting on the laser right here, and I'll get you in. You can take a look at it. This is 1/8-inch plywood. You can get that from Home Depot, or you can get it from your craft store, but craft stores usually charge a ridiculous amount of money for it. If you're making them smaller than this, you could use the craft wood you get at Dollar Tree. That's $1.25 a piece. Just have to find something that would be suitable for whatever size you are doing. And as I said, these are 12 inches high. I cut my 1/8-inch plywood into 16-inch squares when I get the 4x8 sheets, and I just work with it from there, because most laser beds are 15 3/4 inches square. We do have a honeycomb bed underneath. I am using air assist. This is the Algolaser Alpha. Why am I using this one? Because it was already set up and it was close. And another thing that's nice about this laser is it has automatic air assist. And as long as you have that turned on in light burn, it will start the air as you go. Now, one of these ladders is cutting upside down because I could not get them side by side on here with them both right side up. And as you'll see here, this gets very, very close as it approaches the next ladder. It doesn't make any difference. It's just a way to get them fit on the sheet, and they use most of your material. So you can see there, it passes pretty close down there. It was a tight fit, but this works. So now we'll get into the fonts and what you need to do. Okay, this is finished cutting, so I'll make sure that everything is loose there and comes right out. Oh, as you can see, there's not much waste in that. Okay, on your letters here, if you have some that don't just fall out, most of the time they do, you may have to take a little pick like this. These are from Harbor Freight, and poke out them little pieces. And they generally poke right out if they're cut through all the way. Some of these get the fitting a little tight when you're in the small pieces like this. Sometimes they just fall out. Be careful you don't break the portions in between. So this is for Riverdale High School. Here's the other side of it. So when the colors are done differently with school colors, I got a little bit of sanding to do on this, got a few whiskers. It'll look like this. So the other color will be coming through there, and then these can just be glued together. Okay, so now let's talk about making the letters themselves, and I'm not going to go on the screen here in light burn or in laser Gerbil, either one, or whatever laser software you're using. That's entirely up to you. You're going to want to know what cut is. This is 20-watt laser, and I'm using 600 millimeters per minute at 90% power. Do a test on your material. This stuff can vary from sheet to sheet, sometimes from piece to piece off the same sheet. So something to keep in mind there. Okay, so fonts. So this plywood also has 2 different looks to it, depending on which side of it you are going to use for your finish. But this font here is Bernard Condensed. You can pick out whatever font you want to make the letter however you want it to look. However, when you get into this here, where you're going to put the actual name, whether it be a person's name or a school name, in this case for a high school, what you want to do is use a font called Stencil. Because if you use the wrong font, then certain letters will not have the center in them. Although, unless you want to pick them back up and glue them back on afterwards, you won't have that part of the letter. They'll come out. So Stencil is a real easy one to use for this. I made the initial letter, set it to 12 inches high, and then I put these letters just hitting enter after each letter to make that vertical line like this, and then resized it to fit within my big letter. So actually it's a very, very simple project, and if you have someone that's into their school spirit and all that kind of good stuff, they'll like something like this. So I'm going to get I got another piece laying here on the laser, and something you should do if you're doing big letters like this and you're just starting out, even though I'm working from absolute coordinates and I've just done a couple of these, so I know that's in the right place, frame your work. So I'm going to hit frame here. That way you can make sure that the laser is going to actually be cutting where it's supposed to be, and you're not going to run off the edge somewhere. Because when I was first starting out in this, I had that happen a few times. I thought, oh yeah, that's in the right spot, and it goes to cut or engrave, and then pretty soon part of it's off the work, and of course that ruins your project. So if you have this set up like I do in Lightburn, where it has a beam on at 2%, now 1% on this one, 20-watt laser, you'll be able to see that beam through the little shield, and you can see and make sure that it's on your work. And once it is done framing, we'll just hit start, let it go to town. Okay, you should pull that out of there. And again, if you have them little pieces there that don't just fall out, sometimes just smacking that a couple times will make them fall out. You can use your little pick here and push the pieces out. But while I'm doing that, I will show you one more option. Okay, what I'm doing here is I've changed the vertical text to a different layer, and I've also changed the font. And now I'm doing an offset fill instead of a cut. And if you're using a fill or an offset fill, or even just a line, and you're not actually cutting through, you can use any font you want. You don't have to worry about parts of the letters falling out. This is just another option there. I didn't want to go any darker than this. I did some experiments, but I didn't like the way the letters were coming out. Kind of an example here that there's way too much scorching there, and I kind of settled on this. This is 6,000 millimeters per minute at 28% power. This one here was at 25% power. But then leaving a little bit too much white in there, so I wanted to get the thing uniformly brown. I didn't necessarily want it to be black. Little note here, when you're setting up a project that has both engraving and cutting, always do your engraving first and do the cut last. You can move your layers up and down in Lightburn, but you do not want to do your cut first. You always want to do the cuts last. If you're wondering what that font is, it's called Snap ITC. So there's my sign with just the engraving. Now I'm going to do one more. This one is going to be with a line engrave and another font. If I can fit it on this board, that is. I hope I can. Turn this over. Of course, I'm going to have to frame this to make sure it's going to fit. And what I'm doing in this version is just a line engrave for the letters. And again, you can use whatever font you want. This particular font happens to be called Ravie, R-A-V-I-E. And I'm doing 3,000 millimeters per minute at 60% power and 3 passes. It gives me nice dark lines without any kind of scorching around them. And even though I have the air assist on, you can still get scorching if you're running too slow and you're doing these line engraves. So there it is. So there's some options for making a school logo, name logo, street logo, town logo, whatever. I didn't make any downloadable files for this because unless you happen to go to Riverdale High School or your school's named Riverdale or your last name's Riverdale, wouldn't do you a whole lot of good. This is an R. You could change the Riverdale to a name. I could put Roger there. You could put, a person's last name there, although if it's something like Rovana Skovich or something like that, you might have a problem getting it all to fit unless you made the letter really tall. So there's one option, doing a 2-layer with the cutout. Next option, of course, was just doing an offset fill with whatever font you'd like to use. And the third option was to do a line engrave with whatever font you want to use. So there's some ideas for you. Again, you can use whatever letter you need to use. But that's, I hope will give you some ideas on how to do this. Again, you don't have to go get a 4x8 sheet of 1/8" plywood like we do because we use a lot of it. You could go to your local Dollar Tree and find one of their pre-cut shapes and just size your letter to fit within that shape. And it's a good thing to experiment with and a good way to learn about your laser. There'll be a link in the description if you'd like to get one of these Algolaser Alpha lasers. They're a nice laser. Real good for the beginner. Not sponsored, just kind of pointing that out. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. I'm Roger in the shop. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.